Hi, I'm Terry Carrington, one of the Autism Resource Specialists here at Project Access, and we're going to go through our final webinar on behavior support plans. This is the fourth webinar in our series on functional behavior assessments. If you will remember from our last webinar, our student was tearing up worksheets in response to a request demand to complete them. There are all kinds of strategies we could apply. We could cut the worksheet in half, reducing the number of items required. We could give him an easier worksheet. We could heavily reinforce items he did complete. We could train a peer buddy to help him. All of these are good strategies, and it's okay to go there. But if we don't address the function of the behavior, our student may continue to use challenging behavior. So initially, we want to help our student to use an appropriate way to avoid the worksheet. Makes you crazy, doesn't it? We know this is not what most educators want to hear, but this is what works. If our student has an appropriate alternate behavior in his repertoire, we'll have him use that. For example, if he's verbal, we might have him say, "I can do that right now. Can I have something else?" Or "I can't do that right now. Can I have something else?" If there's not something in his behavioral repertoire, we will teach a new behavior. Maybe our student is functionally nonverbal. We'll teach him to use a single message voice output device maybe to ask not to do the work. When choosing an alternate behavior, we need to ensure it is as or more efficient than the challenging behavior. Our students will do whatever is easiest. We'll try and prevent the challenging behavior from occurring and heavily reinforce the alternate behavior. People call us all the time asking what they should do about a student who's biting or about a student who has meltdowns. The list goes on and on. We're being asked about the form of the behavior, or as some call it, the topography of the behavior. That tells us very little. We need to understand the function or the reason for the behavior. Only then can we create a workable behavior support plan. Our team has completed an FBA for Billy and has determined the function of his swiping papers off his desk is to avoid work he perceives as difficult. The team is teaching Billy to hold up a break card when frustrated with the assigned work. Is this functionally equivalent? In other words, does the alternate behavior meet the function of the challenging behavior? In this case, yes, this is a functionally equivalent alternate behavior because Billy is avoiding the assigned work in an appropriate manner. Will this work forever? Of course not. Later, we'll design procedures to help Billy stay with the task. This is often where we'll teach a student to wait, for example. Jason is functionally nonverbal, but will scream and cry for his favorite toy truck. He does this often during the day, and it is distracting to the other children. The teacher takes him to the visual schedule and points to the picture showing when he can have the toy. Is this functionally equivalent? No, this is not a functionally equivalent alternate behavior. This is a strategy and might be a good one after we teach Jason to wait. The functionally equivalent alternate behavior would be to assist Jason in asking for the toy. He could, for example, point to the picture of the toy on a choice board and receive the toy. Would he learn to use the choice board if we only gave the toy when we want him to have it? No, we need to consistently honor the alternate behavior, and it might make us crazy the first few days, but if we don't do this, the use of the alternate behavior won't hold. The child will just give up. Jill is biting other students in the class. The team completed an FBA and has hypothesized Jill is trying to engage other students. They have decided to give her a visual that shows no biting every time she bites. Would this be functionally equivalent? No, this is not a functionally equivalent behavior. We've applied a visual support, which is a good idea, but does not meet the function of her behavior. In this case, we would want to reinforce an existing communication skill or teach a new one that helps her ask other children to play. She might show a card with pictures of kids playing in order to engage with others. Maybe she will use a single message voice output device to engage. Maybe she could just be taught to tap a friend on the shoulder. Very often, challenging behavior has its basis in communication. Some children do not have the communication skills to let us know what they want and need. Behaviors are messages. Sometimes a student will have the needed skill but does not use it in a functional way. We need to reinforce the existing skill in that case. Other times, the student will not have the needed skill, but it will be up to us to teach and reinforce that new skill. This work may involve the use of alternative and augmentative communication, or AAC. The AAC system chosen may involve sign language, use of a visual display, maybe the Picture Exchange Communication System, or PECS, or some sort of device, or maybe a combination of modes. It must work as easily and as efficiently as the challenging behavior and must be consistently honored. Yes, even when the student uses a system multiple times during the day, even when you don't think it's appropriate, we need to honor it so he can learn it in the beginning. We can use procedures to assist the student in appropriate use later on. Students with ASD may display challenging behavior because their sensory needs are not being met. They might be trying to avoid something they perceive as aversive, or they might be trying to obtain calming or alerting input. It is important to consult with your occupational therapist to determine these needs and then to teach your student to meet his needs in an appropriate way. This might involve teaching the child to self-monitor and then ask for the input he requires. In addition to addressing the functionally equivalent behavior, our support plan will also include antecedent support, behavioral support, and consequence support. Antecedent supports may include strategies such as visual schedules, visual supports, social stories, video modeling, structured teaching, priming, and the use of timers. There are many others, but these are just a few that you might try. Behavioral support, which includes the appropriate alternate behavior we've been talking about, requires us to determine whether there is an appropriate alternative already within the child's repertoire or if we need to teach an appropriate alternate behavior. In either case, the alternate behavior must be as efficient and maybe even easier than the challenging behavior. Consequence support usually involves reinforcement of the appropriate behavior. There are all kinds of reinforcement schedules and procedures, but initially you'll want to provide heavy, consistent reinforcement. You might also consider differential reinforcement, where you look at differentially reinforcing the alternate or incompatible behavior or even an other behavior. Remember, the reinforcement must be contingent. In other words, the child needs to know what he's doing to get the reinforcement. He needs to make that connection. The following slides indicate some points to consider when designing a behavior support plan. If we have not developed an operational definition of the behavior we are targeting, we will be inconsistent in the application of our support. The description of the target behavior needs to be one that all staff can easily identify. If your data is incomplete, you will not be able to make good, accurate database decisions. You may have developed an intervention that is too weak or that just doesn't match up with the assessment data. It's okay to go back to the drawing board and try something else, but base that decision on your data. It is so important to get everyone on board. If not, you may have inconsistent or incorrect application of one or more parts of the intervention plan. Consistency is so important. It's important to regularly monitor the implementation of the intervention plan. It may need adjustment. Try not to ever make a plan you can't appropriately implement. Inadequate system-wide support can destroy the best of plans. If there's not enough staff available, if there's not administrative buy-in, if materials you need are not available, and so on, this can keep your plan from functioning. We often have to work around systemic issues. Be creative and don't give up. There is a hierarchy of behaviors, and we need to consider that when planning. If we are dealing with just a situation that is annoying or with something that is just for the convenience of others, we need to rethink. Ethically, we only develop plans for behavior change that will make a positive impact on the individual's life. Training is key. It's hard to implement a plan without proper training and support. Finally, it is important to consider environmental issues, cultural norms, and psychiatric issues. Some of these things may be beyond our control, and they're things that we may have to look at accessing extra help, maybe get other staff from agencies and so on involved. Thank you for watching Project Access 4 webinars on functional behavior assessment. We hope this material has assisted you in supporting your students with autism spectrum disorders, as well as with those who have other developmental disabilities. Be sure and check our website for other webinars and workshops, www.missouristate.edu/access.